I watched her leave with Madison Reeves, their laughter sliding through the premiere's crowd like a knife between my ribs. Vivian didn't even glance back at me, her soon-to-be former client, as she slipped her arm through Madison's and whispered something that made the younger actress throw her head back in delight. Same Vivian, different lifetime, same betrayal. The weight of the Academy Award nomination letter burned in my clutch. No one knew yet, not even Vivian. "Miss Evans, would you like me to get your car?" The event coordinator hovered at my elbow, concern etched across his face. Not yet. I sipped my champagne, the bubbles sharp against my tongue. I'm exactly where I need to be. My phone buzzed. Vivian's name lit up the screen. "We need to talk about your contract tomorrow." "Lunch?" I smiled, slipping the phone back into my purse. "Right on schedule." The pieces were falling into place, just as I'd planned when I woke up 5 years ago with memories of my previous life intact. In my first life, this betrayal destroyed me. This time, it would be the cornerstone of everything I'd build. The first time I met Vivian Reynolds, I was 23, fresh-faced, and desperate for representation. In that life, she'd seemed like salvation in a power suit, all sharp edges and sharper promises. "You have something special, Arya," she'd said, her manicured fingers drumming against my headshot. "Raw talent that can't be taught. I can make you a star." And she did for a while. Until one box office disappointment sent her running to the next bright young thing. I twirl the stem of my wine glass now, watching her work the room at the Westwood afterparty. She doesn't know I can see her from this alcove, doesn't realize I can read her lips as she pitches Madison to director James Forrester. Fresh talent, unspoiled by the industry, not like some who've gotten comfortable. 5 years ago, when I woke up with a second chance, I'd been careful. So careful. Building my career again, faster this time with foreknowledge. Letting Vivian discover me again, watching the same predatory gleam light her eyes. "Your purse, Miss Reynolds." I appear at her side with her forgotten Hermes clutch, startling her mid-pitch. "You left it at the bar." "Aria," her smile snaps into place. "Thank you, darling. Madison, this is Aria Evans, my talented client I was telling you about." "You weren't," I say softly, but with a smile. "But that's all right." Madison has the grace to look embarrassed. Vivian's smile hardens. Later, while helping Vivian search for her car keys in that same purse, I find the draft termination letter dated for next week. I slide it back beneath her checkbook without a word. Just as before. "Remember when you stole Mr. Whiskers from my room and blamed the neighbors?" I ask Elise as she lounges by my pool, sunglasses hiding her hangover. My sister snorts, adjusting her bikini top. "God, you never forget anything, do you?" If you only knew, I think. In my first life, I'd been blind to Elise's jealousy. I'd attributed her barbed comments about my acting to sisterly teasing, had believed her support was genuine. Now I recognize the precise angle of her phone as she pretends to scroll through Instagram but is actually photographing my private script notes on the table beside her. "Want more mimosa?" I ask, already knowing the answer. "God, yes. Early call tomorrow?" She eyes the script. "Screen test for the Nolan film." I lie smoothly. The script is bait, planted with false information about my next project. As I head inside for the picture, I check my banking app. Sure enough, there's another deposit from TMZ to Elise's account. An account I shouldn't know exists, but discovered through careful planning in this second life. That night, I watch her sleeping in my guest house from the garden. Moonlight softens her features, making her look like the sister I'd wanted. The one who would have celebrated my success instead of selling stories about my pill problem and on-set meltdowns to tabloids. I touch the garden shears in my pocket, then release them. Not yet. "You're rushing the monologue again." Derek's voice carries that particular blend of friendly concern and subtle condescension that only former best friends can perfect. We'd met in drama school in both lives. In the first, his betrayal had blindsided me completely. In this one, I'm watching for it, counting down the days. "Thanks." I make a note in my script. "Could you run lines with me for scene 4? "Can't tonight. Meeting with my agent." His eyes slide away too quickly. He's lying. 3 hours later, I follow him to Chateau Marmont, where he slides into a booth with my director and 2 producers. I don't need to eavesdrop. I'd attended this same meeting in my previous life, the one where Derek suggested his girlfriend take over my role because Arya's been struggling emotionally. I'm worried about her. This time, I've come prepared. I snap photos with my phone, making sure to catch Derek's animated gestures as he throws me under the bus. The next morning, I arrive early to set and discover my script pages for the emotional climax have been altered. Subtle changes to make my character seem unhinged rather than passionate. The coffee I bring Derek has an extra shot of espresso, just how he likes it. He doesn't deserve my kindness, but he'll need the caffeine for what's coming. Thanks for having my back, I tell him, watching him squirm. Always, he lies, and I memorize the exact cadence of the word. I'll need it for later. Richard Austin had been a father figure in my first life. The studio executive who took chances on me, fought for my casting, celebrated my successes as if they were his own. It made his betrayal the most painful. The investors are concerned about the demographic appeal, he says now, echoing words from my past life as we sit in his corner office overlooking the studio lot. We might need to restructure your involvement in the franchise. What he means, they want someone younger. What he's not saying, he's the one who suggested it. I understand, I say, just as I did before. You have to think of the studio first. His relief is palpable. In my first life, I'd cried in this office, begged for another chance. This time, I'm already scrolling through emails on my phone, specifically the ones forwarded to me by his assistant showing Richard has been skimming from my contracts for years. You're taking this better than I expected, he says, studying me. I smile. You've taught me so much about this business, Richard, including how quickly the tide can turn. He mistakes my comment for resignation rather than the warning it is. Later that week, I sit 3 tables away from him at Spago, close enough to hear him tell another studio head that I'm high maintenance and past my prime at 32. Close enough to see him slide a folder with my confidential medical records, records his wife, my former physician, had no right to share. I take a single photo beneath the table, then leave before dessert. The betrayal stings no less the second time around, but this time, I'm ready for it. The Century City restaurant buzzes with industry chatter as Vivian slides into the seat across from me. Her Prada sunglasses remain on, never a good sign. Aria, darling. She reaches for my hand, squeezes it once. You've been such an important part of my client roster. Been, past tense, already burying me. I sense a but coming, I say, keeping my voice light. The industry is changing. We need to be strategic about your career trajectory. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. I'm thinking we scale back my direct involvement, perhaps transition you to one of our junior agents with more bandwidth. The exact speech from my previous life, practically word for word, I remember collapsing into tears the first time, causing a scene that became gossip fodder for weeks. This time, I nod thoughtfully. You've always had my best interests at heart. Relief floods her face. Exactly. And Marcus is brilliant with career rehabilitation. Rehabilitation? I raise an eyebrow. She backpedals. Career enhancement, longevity planning. 2 days later, I spot her having coffee with Madison at Intelligentsia. Madison wears dark glasses and a hat, but Vivian doesn't bother hiding. Why would she? In her mind, I've already accepted my demotion. That evening, an email arrives, clearly meant for her business partner, but accidentally copied to me. AE transition complete by month end. Mr. Contract finalized. Lunch to celebrate Fry? I forward it to my private account, then delete it from my inbox. When Vivian calls the next morning, I assure her I'm excited to meet with Marcus, my new agent. At the Vanity Fair party that weekend, I keep my distance as Vivian works the room, introducing Madison to everyone who matters. When our paths cross, I compliment Madison's dress and ask Vivian about her mother's health, a personal touch to show no hard feelings. The following Monday, I send Vivian a small gift basket with her favorite macarons and a note. Grateful for everything you've taught me. Aria, she doesn't call to thank me, she doesn't call at all. What Vivian doesn't know, 3 weeks ago, I had lunch with Christopher Nolan. Not a casting meeting, a personal lunch arranged through connections I carefully cultivated in this second life. Your agent turned down my request to meet with you last year. he mentions casually over dessert. Did she? I keep my surprise hidden. In my first life, I never knew this. Scheduling conflicts, probably. That's not what she said. His eyes narrow. She said you weren't interested in cerebral projects with limited commercial appeal. I absorb this betrayal, new information, not something I'd known from before, and file it away with the others. I'd like to read for the role, I say instead of screaming, if you're still considering me. 2 days after Vivian's scaling back lunch, I meet with an entertainment reporter I've been cultivating for months. Over drinks, I express concern about predatory representation practices in the industry. Any specifics? She asks, recorder discreetly positioned. I couldn't possibly name names, I reply. But I've heard stories about agents promising exclusive representation while secretly offering the same projects to multiple clients. It creates a toxic, competitive environment. The blind item appears in her column the following week. 3 agents are implicitly mentioned. Vivian is recognizable to anyone who knows the players. The same day, I forward Christopher the email where Vivian dismisses me to sign Madison. His response is immediate. Lunch tomorrow to discuss the role, no agents. I then meet with Carlisle Management, Vivian's direct competition, knowing the industry grapevine will ensure she hears about it within hours. The final piece, leaking to the trades that I'm the front-runner for Nolan's film with a 7-figure deal in negotiation. All technically true, though no contracts have been signed. The fallout begins at 2:37 a.m. with 6 missed calls from Vivian. I don't answer until morning. What the fuck, Aria? She rarely swears. She must be desperate. You're meeting with Carlisle after everything I've done for you? Marcus suggested I explore options, I say mildly, since you're scaling back your involvement. That's not... I never... She stops, recalibrates. There's been a misunderstanding. Marcus was temporary just while I handled some family matters. Really? The email about my transition seemed pretty clear. Silence, then. You weren't supposed to see that. Clearly. She switches tactics. Madison dropped me this morning, said she's going with CAA instead. I make sympathetic noises while examining my nails. And Nolan's people called. Said you're confirmed for the lead? Her voice rises. When did that happen? Last week. I didn't want to bother you with it since you were transitioning me to Marcus. More silence. Arya, listen. I made a mistake. This business, the pressure. Sometimes I'd lose sight of what matters, your family to me. In my previous life, I'd believed those words. I'd taken her back, pathetically grateful for the scraps of her attention. She'd dropped me again 6 months later. We should talk in person, she says when I don't respond. I'll bring champagne. Celebrate properly. That evening, security cameras capture Vivian arriving at my gate with a Veuve Clicquot gift bag, her makeup impeccable despite the panicked look in her eyes. The intercom buzzes. Aria, it's me. I watch the monitor, sipping tea in my darkened living room. Please, Aria, 5 minutes. After 10 minutes of increasingly desperate pleas, she leaves the champagne by the gate and slides a note beneath it. I retrieve both after she's gone. The note reads, I was wrong, you're irreplaceable, please call me. V. I pour the champagne down the sink and file the note with the others. I find them in my pool house. My sister Elise, naked and straddling Derek on the couch? I bought her for her birthday. The same couch where I'd comforted her last month when she cried about being undateable. They don't hear me. I back away silently, return to the main house, and pour a generous whiskey. When Elise slinks in an hour later, I'm reading scripts in the living room. Good swim? I ask pleasantly. She startles. Just sunbathing. I turn a page. Derek left his watch by the pool. You might want to return it before his wife notices it's missing. Her face drains of color. Aria, it's not what it looked like? Because it looked like my sister fucking my co-star on furniture I paid for. She crumples into a chair. I'm sorry, it just happened. Things always just happen to you, don't they, Elise? The next day, I overhear them on the patio, unaware I'm in the kitchen. Delusional if she thinks Nolan will cast her, Derek is saying. She can barely remember her lines for our simple show. Elise laughs. The pills don't help. Found a whole stash in her bathroom. Think the trades would be interested in that little tidbit? Already working on it. Just need some pictures for proof. I close my eyes, remembering how their betrayal broke me in my previous life. The overdose that wasn't really an overdose, but a desperate attempt to sleep through the pain. The hospitalization. The roles that disappeared afterward. Not this time. Despite knowing their plans, I increase my support for both. I pay off Elise's credit card debt because you're family, and recommend Derek for a supporting role in my next film. You've got my back, I've got yours, I tell him on set, squeezing his shoulder. At the premiere, I ensure photographers capture us as a united family. Elise on one arm, Derek on the other, the perfect Hollywood support system. Behind the scenes, I'm working. I anonymously mail a USB drive containing footage of Derek and Elise to his wife, along with copies of hotel receipts. I forward recordings of Elise's calls with tabloid editors to my lawyer, documenting her breach of the NDA she signed to live in my guest house. I rewrite key emotional scenes to minimize Derek's role, convincing the director it serves the story better. I plant the vitamin supplements Elise mistook for illicit pills in her bathroom, along with financial documents showing wire transfers to her account from gossip magazines. The morning everything detonates, I'm having breakfast in my garden. Derek's wife posts the footage to Instagram with a blistering caption about his infidelity. Industry news picks up the story within hours. By noon, his publicist has dropped him. Simultaneously, my lawyer serves Elise with eviction papers and a civil suit for defamation and privacy invasion. The tabloid editor, fearing legal exposure, forwards all her emails pitching false stories about my drug problem. I receive Derek's desperate call while getting my hair done for a charity event. They're killing me online, he gasps. Emma's taken the kids to her parents. The director called. I've been cut from the final edit. That's terrible, I say, examining my reflection. Have you spoken to your publicist? She dropped me. Arya, you have to help me. Tell them it's not true. Which part isn't true, Derek? The affair with my sister or the lies you told about me? Silence. I have to go, I say. I'm being honored at the Children's Hospital Gala tonight. Give Elise my best. Later that night, they're both waiting in my driveway. Elise's eyes are swollen from crying, her suitcases piled beside her. Derek looks like he hasn't slept. Please, Elise says as I step from the car. Where am I supposed to go? You should have thought about that before selling stories about me. I'll do anything, Derek begs, grabbing my arm. My career is over if you don't help. I look from one to the other, these people who would have destroyed me again without hesitation. Anything? I ask softly. I make them wait outside while I consider their fate. Studio executive Richard Austin summons me to his office after the successful first week of shooting on the Nolan film. Budget concerns, he says gravely, not looking me in the eye. We need to reduce your character's screen time. I nod thoughtfully. I understand. The studio comes first. Exactly. He seems relieved. These decisions are never personal. But when I check my production emails that evening, I find messages he didn't realize were copied to me. Discussions about aging out my character to focus on younger talent. Plans to minimize my involvement in promotional activities. A note suggesting they're already searching for my replacement for subsequent films. At the next production meeting, I thank Richard for his tough love approach. It's made me work even harder, I tell him while others listen. His uncomfortable smile doesn't reach his eyes. After a particularly brutal notes session where he questions every choice I've made, I send an orchid to his office with a note. Appreciate your guidance as always. Arya. Behind the scenes, I've been building a different narrative. Meeting privately with his supervisor to express concerns about financial irregularities I've noticed in production accounting. Befriending a whistleblower in the accounting department who's been keeping records of Richard's creative bookkeeping for years. I leak evidence of Richard's inappropriate behavior with young actresses to 3 board members, making sure each thinks they're the only one who knows. I secure a private lunch with Catherine Chen, the influential studio chairwoman who's been looking for an excuse to clean house. Most devastatingly, I use Richard's own meticulous documentation against him. His habit of keeping records of everyone's mistakes doesn't exclude his own. I find the smoking gun in production files, his authorization to use lesser safety protocols on my stunt sequence to save money, a direct violation of union rules and studio policy. The board meeting is closed, but my friend in legal gives me the highlights. Richard, confident as always, walks in expecting routine approvals. Instead, he faces the emails, the accounting discrepancies, and the safety violations, all projected on the conference room screen. "This is a misunderstanding," he protests. "Aria Evans put you up to this. She's been unstable since—" Catherine Chen cuts him off. "These are your emails, Richard, your authorizations, your signature." By 3 o'clock, security is escorting him from the building. I watch from the commissary window as he struggles with boxes of personal items, his face flushed with rage and humiliation. That evening, he calls me 7 times. I don't answer. 3 months later, at the Golden Globes, he approaches me at the bar, noticeably thinner, wearing a suit that no longer fits properly. "I need a reference," he says without preamble. "No one will hire me without one." I sip my champagne. "That sounds difficult." "Aria, please, I have a family." "So did I reply. "You just didn't care." The cream envelope arrives on a Tuesday morning, addressed not to Aria Evans, but to E.L. Mercer, the pseudonym I've been writing under for the past 2 years. Inside, an invitation to the Screenwriters Guild Awards, where my psychological thriller, Second Chances, is nominated for Best Original Screenplay. No one knows E.L. Mercer is me. Not my agent, not my sister, not the studio currently bidding on the script. I trace the embossed lettering with my fingertip, heart racing. If I accept the nomination, I'll have to reveal myself at the ceremony. If I win, I'll stand before the same industry that dismissed my writing ambitions in 2 lifetimes. As I open the nomination letter addressed to my secret identity, I realize I'd have to make a choice: continue the ruse, or reveal the writer they'd all dismissed was me all along. "Someone's taking a very personal interest in your career," my new agent Julian remarks, scanning the investment portfolio for my production company. I keep my expression neutral. "Meaning? These aren't standard industry investments. Someone with deep pockets is specifically backing your projects, even the risky ones." A chill runs down my spine. I'd assumed the anonymous investor was a film finance group Julian had found. "You don't know who it is?" That's just it. They're using shell companies, offshore accounts. Very sophisticated. He frowns. "Usually I'd suspect something illegal, but everything checks out legally. They just really want to remain anonymous while ensuring your success." That night, I'm reviewing script changes in my home office when the security system alerts me to movement on the terrace. The cameras show nothing, but when I open the French doors, a manila envelope rests on the table, held down by a smooth black stone, exactly like one I collected on a beach in my previous life. Inside, a handwritten note on thick paper. "We should talk about your screenplay and your rebirth. N." As I look up from the note, the silhouette in the doorway is unmistakable. But how could the most reclusive director in Hollywood know about my secret screenplay, and why would he want to meet at midnight? The first time it happens, I dismiss it as exhaustion, a momentary dizziness on set, quickly hidden from concerned crew members. The second time, I taste blood after a coughing fit in my trailer and swallow my panic along with it. By the 3rd episode, partial numbness in my left hand during an emotional scene, I can no longer pretend. "You need rest," the set medic advises after checking my blood pressure, "and a proper doctor." I nod, knowing I'll do neither. We're 2 weeks from wrapping the most important film of my career, the role that will cement my comeback. Nothing can interrupt that, not even the frightening possibility that history is repeating itself in ways I hadn't anticipated. In my previous life, I'd ignored similar symptoms, attributing them to stress and exhaustion. By the time I finally collapsed on set, the diagnosis came too late. But this life's timeline is accelerated. Everything is happening faster. My career resurrection, my revenge, and now, it seems, my body's betrayal. "I'm fine," I tell the concerned director. "Just need more sleep." That night, I finally see the specialist I've been avoiding. The MRI machine hums around me, capturing images I don't want to see. The doctor's expression afterward tells me everything I need to know. If I continue filming at this pace, I might not live to see my revenge completed. I don't keep a physical revenge journal. That would be amateur hour. but I do have a carefully encrypted document detailing every betrayal, every countermove, every plan still to come. Which is why finding Elise in my home office, my laptop open before her, stops my heart. "What are you doing?" I ask, my voice deadly quiet. She jumps, guilty and terrified all at once. "I was looking for the rental agreement, for the new apartment." Since the eviction, I've allowed her limited visits to collect her things, always supervised. Today I stepped away for a work call. In my private laptop, behind 2 password protections. Her eyes are wide, darting between me and the screen where my plans are partially visible. "Aria, what is all this? These notes about Richard, about Vivian, about me?" I move closer, assessing how much she's seen. Too much, based on her expression. "You've been planning this," she whispers, "all of it. The scandals, the leaked stories, the coincidences. You've been orchestrating everyone's destruction." "Not everyone's," I correct her, "just those who betrayed me." She backs away from the desk. "This isn't normal, Aria. You need help." I laugh, the sound harsh even to my ears. "Says the sister who sold fake stories about my mental health to tabloids." Elise's hand hovers over my phone on the desk. One call to warn the others would destroy everything I'd worked for, and the look in her eyes told me she hadn't decided which side she was on. "I know what you're doing," Vivian says, her voice low and dangerous. We're standing in the corner of a crowded industry party, champagne flutes in hand like civilized people. Like she hadn't tried to destroy my career. Twice. "Enjoying the party?" I ask pleasantly. "Cut the shit. I've connected the dots." She steps closer. "The blind items, the leaked emails, the perfectly timed career opportunities, you've been playing us all." I sip my champagne. "Interesting theory." "Not a theory." She reaches into her clutch and removes a small flash drive. "I have proof. Emails, recordings, testimony from people you've manipulated. It's enough to expose your little revenge project to the entire industry." The flash drive catches the light as she rolls it between her fingers. "What do you think would happen to your precious comeback if people knew the truth? If they saw what you're really like behind the perfect facade?" My heart races, but I keep my expression bored. "And why would anyone believe you? The agent who dumped her client at the first sign of trouble?" "Because I have receipts." Her smile is razor sharp. "Including a very interesting conversation with your sister." The flash drive she held contained enough evidence to expose my carefully constructed revenge. But she didn't know I'd been counting on this moment all along. "It's your choice," Director Bennett says, his weathered face solemn in the harsh trailer light. "I can't make it for you." The script pages between us represent the most challenging role of my career. A character whose descent into obsession mirrors my own journey too closely for comfort. "The studio wants changes," he continues. "They're nervous about the darkness, the moral ambiguity. They want a clearer hero, a more satisfying resolution. A happier ending," I translate. He nods. "If you support their version, they'll back you for awards consideration. Full campaign, prime publicity. And if I don't, then we fight for my vision, our vision, of a messy, complicated woman who doesn't get redemption because she doesn't want it." He leans forward. "But they'll bury the film, and possibly you with it." The choice crystallizes. Embrace the sanitized version that would guarantee critical acclaim and industry rehabilitation, or fight for the raw, honest portrayal that might end my career but would tell the truth about vengeance and its costs. "They're giving you 24 hours, Bennett says, standing to leave. I had 24 hours to decide. Pursue the vengeance that had driven me since rebirth, or accept the role of a lifetime that would mean walking away from it all. The Dolby Theater hums with tension as the nominations are read. I sit between Julian and Christopher Nolan, my expression carefully neutral despite the thundering of my heart. And the nominees for Best Actress in a Leading Role are... In my previous life, I never made it this far. Never sat in these plush seats, never heard my name spoken by Oscar presenters, never felt the weight of possibility pressing against my ribs. Julian squeezes my hand as the names begin. 4 accomplished actresses, each with decades of respect behind them. Then, Aria Evans for The Memory Collector. Polite applause. Nothing like the roar for Meryl or Nicole. I force a humble smile for the cameras. Later, as they announce the writing categories, I straighten imperceptibly. Julian gives me a curious look. He doesn't know I have skin in this game, too. And the nominees for Best Original Screenplay are four renowned writers, then E.L. Mercer for Second Chances. Julian frowns. Wasn't that the script you were considering for your production company? I nod, not trusting my voice. The broadcast cuts to commercial. The nominees for screenplay are shown briefly on screen. Four men in suits and an empty chair with a question mark where E.L. Mercer should be. When the broadcast returns, the presenter looks uncertain. We've just received word that E.L. Mercer is, in fact, in attendance tonight. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Julian turns to me, bewildered, as I slowly rise from my seat. The camera finds me, and the confused murmuring grows louder. As they announce my name not just for acting, but also for my screenplay, the camera cuts to Vivian's expression in the audience, and in that moment, I know she has finally realized who I'd become while she wasn't watching. I didn't know you were interested in real estate, Richard says, eyeing the property portfolio I've deliberately left visible on my coffee table. Just a hobby. I slide the documents into a folder. Something stable for when acting work dries up. He chuckles, but I catch the calculation in his eyes. Smart. Though from what I hear, you're not hurting for cash. That West Side property you bought last year? $7 million, wasn't it? I shrug. Good investment. What I don't tell him, it's one of 12 properties I've acquired since my rebirth. The first thing I did upon waking in my 25-year-old body with memories intact was invest every penny in companies I knew would explode in value. Amazon, Netflix, Apple before the iPhone, Bitcoin when it was pennies. Small, careful investments spread across multiple accounts. Nothing flashy enough to raise flags. By the time I reconnected with Vivian 3 years ago, I was worth more than everyone in my former inner circle combined. We should talk about diversifying your portfolio sometime, Richard suggests. I know some people. That would be great, I lie, knowing he's fishing for information to exploit. Later that week, at a private dinner with studio executives, I casually mention my minority stake in 3 production companies. The studio head pauses with his fork midair. You're an investor in Elevation Pictures? Among others. I sip my wine. I like to know what's happening behind the scenes. What I don't mention, I hold enough shares in his studio's parent company to request a board seat if I wanted one. The first meeting happens in a renovated warehouse in Brooklyn, far from Hollywood's prying eyes. I recognize 3 Academy Award winners, a network president, and several acclaimed directors among the 12 people seated in a circle. Welcome to the REBORN, says director Nicholas Yeo, the man whose silhouette I'd recognized on my terrace that night. We've been watching your progress with interest, Aria. My pulse quickens. How did you find me? A woman I recognize as best-selling author Margot Crane smiles. We recognize our own. The patterns are distinctive. Rapid career acceleration, strategic relationship building, unusual investment choices. And the night terrors, adds a man I don't recognize. The memories that feel too real to be dreams. I look around the circle, understanding dawning. You're all reborn, Nicholas confirms, returned with memories of our previous lives, each of us using that knowledge differently. They explain the network they've built, industry professionals across entertainment, publishing, finance, and technology, all sharing the experience of rebirth. A secret society united by their second chance at life. We don't interfere with each other's paths, Margot explains, but we support, shelter, protect when needed. And sometimes, Nicola adds with a knowing look, we help deliver justice when the system fails. By the end of the night, I understand that I'm not alone, that my experience, while rare, is shared by others who have used their foreknowledge to rebuild their lives. Some for power, some for art, some for redemption, and some, like me, for revenge. The documents arrive by private courier 3 days after the Brooklyn meeting. A thick folder of financial statements, corporate registrations, and offshore account details, all connected to me through a labyrinth of shell companies and proxies. You've been busy, Julian remarks as we review the documents in my study. He doesn't know these came from the Reborn. As far as he's concerned, they're from my financial team. More than you know, I murmur, studying the ownership diagrams. What even Julian doesn't realize, I now control 51% of Pinnacle Agency, Vivian's struggling talent company. I purchased the shares through 3 different investment vehicles over 18 months, keeping my name off every document. I own the distribution rights to my last 3 films through a separate holding company. And most satisfyingly, I'm the anonymous angel investor who saved Richard's former production partner from bankruptcy. A man who now owes me favors that will prove useful very soon. This portfolio is... Julian shakes his head, struggling for words. Arya, you must be worth... Enough, I interrupt. Enough to never be at their mercy again. That night, I stand before the wall in my private office, the one hidden behind a sliding bookcase like something from a melodramatic film. Index cards and photographs connected by colored strings map the relationships, the betrayals, the pressure points of everyone who thought they could discard me. Next to it, a timeline of journal entries from the day I woke up with memories intact. The careful planning, the strategic investments, the relationships cultivated solely for leverage. And in the center, a single photograph. Me on the night of my overdose in my previous life, hollow-eyed and broken. A reminder of what I'm fighting to avenge. Below it, in my precise handwriting, Academy Awards. February 27th, final phase initiated. You're related to the Montgomerys. It's not a question. Catherine Chen, the studio chairwoman, studies me across her immaculate desk. I keep my expression neutral. What makes you say that? She slides a document across to me, a birth certificate I'd buried in sealed court records. Your mother was Eleanor Montgomery before she married your father. My pulse quickens. In my previous life, I'd never known this connection to one of Hollywood's founding families. My mother died when I was young, and my father never spoke of her background. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Catherine's eyes are sharp. What matters is that you're the last living Montgomery. Do you have any idea what that means? I do now. It means access to a trust that's been accumulating interest for decades. It means ownership stakes in 3 major studios through legacy holdings. It means a seat at tables I've been fighting to reach. I'm still just Arya Evans, I say carefully. Catherine laughs. No, you're not. You haven't been just anything for a long time. She leans forward. The question is, what are you planning to do with all this power you've accumulated? Before I can answer, her assistant interrupts with an urgent call. As Catherine steps out, I examine the document, mind racing. This wasn't part of my rebirth knowledge. This is new information, a wild card I hadn't anticipated. When Catherine returns, her expression has changed. Your former agent, Vivian Reynolds, was just arrested for financial irregularities. Apparently, someone provided the SEC with evidence of client fund misappropriation going back years. I keep my face carefully blank. How unfortunate. Indeed. Catherine studies me with new respect. I think we understand each other now. Later that week, at a private Bel Air party, I overhear Richard and Derek whispering urgently in a corner. Connected to everyone, the Montgomery fortune, for Christ's sake. Can't be right, she's nobody from nowhere. Owns half the properties in the hills, my banker says. They fall silent as I approach, faces paling as they realize who I've become while they were busy underestimating me. The trophy room is my most private space, located in the basement of my Malibu house, accessible only through a biometric scanner disguised as a wine cellar door. Inside, artifacts from each completed revenge. Vivian's termination letter to me from both lifetimes, framed side by side. The flash drive she thought contained damning evidence against me, but actually held footage of her admitting to contract violations with multiple clients. A pair of crystal champagne flutes, the ones Derek and Elise were drinking from the night their affair imploded his marriage. Richard's personalized fountain pen, taken from his desk the day security escorted him from the building. And in the center, on a pedestal, the Oscar nomination letter. Not for acting, that was expected, but for the screenplay no one knew I'd written. The one that would force me to reveal myself at the Academy Awards, the final phase, and as I adjust the lighting on my macabre collection, Nicholas Yeoh's reflection appears in the glass display. Impressive, he says, moving to stand beside me. Most of the reborn focus on accumulating wealth or power. Your dedication is unusual. You broke into my home, I observe calmly. You wanted me to? He smiles. Otherwise, your security would have actually worked. He's right. I have been curious about him since our meeting in Brooklyn, about what he knows, about what he wants. Why are you here? To see if you've thought beyond revenge. He gestures to the trophies. This is the past. What about your future? I've avoided this question since my rebirth. Everything has been focused on justice, on making them pay, on ensuring I wasn't destroyed a second time. The Academy Awards speech, he guesses. That's your endgame. Public humiliation for those who wronged you. Justice, I correct him. And then what? He presses. The reborn who thrive are those who use their knowledge to build something meaningful, not just settle scores. I turn away from the displays. I haven't thought that far ahead. Yes, you have. His voice softens. I've read your screenplay, the one nominated as E.L. Mercer. It's not just about revenge. It's about what comes after. My throat tightens. He's right again. The screenplay, the one I wrote in secret, the one nominated for an Oscar, isn't just a vehicle for my revenge. It's a vision of redemption I'm not sure I believe in. The speech is still happening, I tell him firmly. Of course. He nods. Just make sure it's not the end of your story. Vivian's desperation has a scent, expensive perfume layered over fear, wafting through my penthouse office as she paces the marble floor. I've brought evidence. She gestures to the documents on my desk. Cooper, Jacobs, Stevens. They've all done worse than me. Balance sheets, client complaints, recorded calls, it's all there. I flip through the pages without comment. It's an impressive collection of industry dirt, enough to sink 3 major agents who've been her rivals for years. This is your specialty, isn't it? I finally ask. Keeping files on everyone's mistakes except your own. She flinches. I've made mistakes. I've admitted that. Only after you were caught. I close the folder. Why should I help you, Vivian? Because I made you. The words burst out desperate and ugly. I discovered you, shaped you. Without me, you'd still be doing community theater in Riverside. I laugh softly. Is that what you tell yourself? It's the truth. She slams her hands on my desk. I'm offering you exclusivity. Just you. No other clients. We can rebuild together. Like we did after you dropped me the first time? She pauses, confused. What are you talking about? When did I... Never mind. I stand, signaling the end of our meeting. The answer is no. Aria, please. Her voice breaks, tears threatening her perfect makeup. They're saying 5 years minimum. Federal charges, my reputation is destroyed. You're the only client with enough influence to make a statement, to show the industry I still have value. You should have thought about that before you discarded me. Twice. She sinks to her knees, pride finally shattered. I'll do anything. Anything. I look down at the woman who once held my career in her manicured hands, who once made me beg for scraps of her attention. The symmetry is perfect. Goodbye, Vivian. The family dining room is tense as Elise pushes mashed potatoes around her plate. Dad tries to maintain conversation while my stepmother shoots nervous glances between us. Remember that Thanksgiving when Arya got sick from eating all the cookie dough? Elise asks suddenly. Mom was so mad, but she still sat up all night with you. I set down my fork. Why are you bringing up childhood memories? Because we're family, she says quietly. Before all this, the fame, the money, the grudges, we were sisters who shared a room and fought over the bathroom mirror. Dad nods encouragingly. You girls have been through so much together. What they don't know, in my previous life, Elise's betrayal cut deeper than any other. She was the one person I thought would never turn on me, making her tabloid stories about my instability, the final push toward my overdose. Blood matters, Elise continues. Whatever I've done wrong, and I know it's a lot, we're still family. Family doesn't sell stories about drug problems that don't exist. She pales. I'll make a public statement, confess everything, tell them I made it all up for money and attention. It's too late. It's never too late for forgiveness, Dad interjects, his voice gentle but firm. Your mother would want... Don't... My voice cuts like glass. Don't use her against me. Elise reaches across the table for my hand. I let her take it, feeling nothing as she squeezes my fingers. I am so, so sorry, she whispers, real remorse shining in her eyes. Please don't shut me out forever. I study her face, searching for the sister I loved, the one I protected, the one I thought would always have my back. For a moment, I almost see her. Then I remember the bank transfers, the photographed private notes, the whispered conversations with Derek. I slide my hand free. Pass the gravy, please. The interruption comes during the in memoriam segment of the Screen Actors Guild Awards. As the audience sits in respectful silence, remembering colleagues lost, a commotion erupts near the stage. Derek Vance, disheveled and wild-eyed, grabs a microphone from a stunned production assistant. I need to say something, he slurs, clearly intoxicated. Security guards move toward him, but the host waves them back, curious to see where this goes. Aria Evans, Derek calls out, scanning the crowd until he finds me. Cameras swivel to capture my startled expression. Aria Evans is the most talented actress of our generation. Uncomfortable murmurs ripple through the audience. I sabotaged her, he continues, voice breaking. I was jealous, threatened, I spread lies, I tried to steal her roles, and he chokes up. She still recommended me for parts. Still supported me publicly. Security edges closer. I've been in therapy for 6 months, he announces to the increasingly uncomfortable crowd. Working on my narcissism, my insecurity, my need to tear others down to feel important. A security guard reaches for his arm. Derek shakes him off. Aria, I am so deeply sorry. I would be honored to work with you again in any capacity, even as an extra, even as a stand-in. I just want a chance to make things right. As the guards finally pull him away, he calls out one last time. Please forgive me. All eyes turn to me. The cameras zoom in, hungry for reaction. I rise slowly from my seat, face composed. I approach the stage, the crowd parting before me, and accept the microphone from the flustered host. Mental health struggles affect many in our industry, I say calmly. I wish Derek well with his recovery journey. Then I walk past him without a glance, leaving him collapsed in a sobbing heap as I return to my seat. The restaurant is nearly empty at this late hour. Just as it was 5 years ago in my previous life when Richard humiliated me in front of industry peers by loudly questioning my emotional stability for a major role. Now, he sits across from me, the power dynamic reversed. His clothes are expensive but slightly rumpled, his once commanding presence diminished by scandal and unemployment. I can still open doors, he insists, voice low and urgent. Spielberg still takes my calls, Nolan, even Scott. I sip my wine. Interesting. I've compiled information. He slides a thumb drive across the table. Things the board doesn't know about Catherine. About all of them. Leverage. You're offering me dirt on your former colleagues. I'm offering you protection. He leans forward, eyes intent. This business turns on everyone eventually. You need someone who knows where the bodies are buried. Someone like you. Exactly. He smiles, relief washing over his features. We always worked well together, Arya, before misunderstandings arose. Misunderstandings, I repeat flatly. Is that what you call leaking my confidential medical information? Skimming from my contracts? Telling casting directors I was difficult and past my prime? His smile falters. The past is the past. I'm talking about the future. So am I. We sit in silence while he processes the rejection in my tone. What do you want? He finally asks, desperation creeping into his voice. Money? I can still raise financing, connections. I mentioned Spielberg. I want nothing from you, Richard. Everyone wants something. He runs a hand through his thinning hair. Tell me, please. The waiter appears with a check. I sign without looking at the total. This was my treat, I tell Richard as I stand to leave. Since you mentioned you're having cash flow issues. Wait. He grabs my wrist, an action that would have intimidated me in my previous life. What about marriage? I stare at him, momentarily speechless. Think about it, he continues hurriedly. The industry loves a redemption story. Disgraced executive finds love, changes his ways. You'd be seen as compassionate, forgiving. Plus, my family name still carries weight in certain circles. His desperation has reached pathetic new depths. I gently but firmly remove his hand from my wrist. Richard, the only circle your name carries weight in anymore is your Alcoholics Anonymous group. And even there, I hear you're not very popular. His face crumples as I walk away. The Dolby Theater glows with anticipation as I approach the podium, the weight of the Oscar statue unfamiliar in my hands. The applause washes over me like a cleansing tide. Thank you, I begin, my voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm me. This moment feels like a rebirth. In the audience, I spot familiar faces. Julian, beaming with pride. Christopher Nolan, nodding in satisfaction. Nicholas Yo, watching with knowing eyes from the back. They say success is the best revenge, I continue, but I've learned it's actually peace. Finding peace with your journey, even the painful parts. The camera cuts away briefly, catching Vivian watching from a sports bar in West Hollywood, her house arrest ankle monitor visible beneath her designer jeans. I want to thank those who believed in me, even when belief was difficult. My father, who never doubted. Julian, who took a chance on an actress with a complicated history. I pause, allowing the next words their proper weight. And I want to thank those who didn't believe in me, especially my former agent, Vivian Reynolds. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Vivian showed me exactly what I didn't want to become in this industry. Someone who values expedience over loyalty, status over substance. I smile, softening the blow. Her actions motivated me to build something more meaningful than success, to build integrity. The camera finds Vivian again, her face frozen in shock as the bar patrons turn to stare at her. This award represents not just achievement, but rebirth. The death of who I was expected to be and the birth of who I've chosen to become. I raise the statue slightly. Thank you for this honor and for the chance to start again. The applause as I exit the stage feels different from any I've experienced before. Respectful rather than adoring, thoughtful rather than automatic. I've given them something to consider, not just celebrate. Backstage, Nicholas appears at my elbow. Elegant, he murmurs. Revenge served at room temperature, civilized. It's not just revenge anymore, I reply, surprising myself with the truth of it. It's closure. The Mediterranean sun warms my skin as I float in the turquoise waters off my private island. No schedule, no demands, no performances. Just the rhythm of my breathing and the gentle rocking of the sea. 2 weeks since the Oscars. 2 weeks of blessed silence. My phone rests in a drawer in the villa, untouched. Scripts pile unopened on the antique desk. Industry news continues without my attention. Each morning follows the same ritual: coffee on the terrace, swimming in the clear waters, writing in my journal. Not plans for revenge, but reflections on peace, on what comes after the climax, on who I might become without the driving force of retribution. Today I write, is this how rebirth really feels? Not the awakening with memories intact, but this moment of genuine choice, to continue the cycle or break it. The question hangs unanswered as I close the journal and dive beneath the surface, letting the Mediterranean silence enfold me completely. The Evans Foundation for Artistic Integrity, I announced to the small gathering of advisors. Supporting overlooked talent with mentorship, resources, and protection from industry exploitation. Julian studies the proposal documents. This is substantial. The endowment alone is necessary, I finish for him. Change requires investment. We're meeting in what will become the Foundation's headquarters, a renovated theater in a neglected corner of Los Angeles. Around us, construction crews transform the space into offices, training rooms, and a state-of-the-art performance venue. The mentorship program is the core, I explain, walking them through the building. Emerging artists paired with established professionals who've maintained their integrity despite industry pressures. And the legal defense fund? My attorney asks, reviewing the budget. For those facing contract exploitation, harassment, discrimination. The battles most can't afford to fight alone. What I don't say, every program addresses a vulnerability I experienced in my previous life. Every safeguard closes a door that allowed my destruction. The foundation isn't just charity, it's fortification against history's repeating. Later that day, I personally welcomed the first cohort of artists, actors, writers, directors, with promise and passion but without connections or protection. Among them, a young actress with the same determined vulnerability I once possessed. This isn't just about advancing your careers, I tell them. It's about advancing with your souls intact. As they explore the facilities, wide eyed and grateful, I feel something unfamiliar bloom in my chest. Something cleaner than satisfaction, warmer than pride. Purpose beyond vengeance. The sunset paints my penthouse terrace in golds and crimsons. Below, Los Angeles spreads like a carpet of lights, beautiful and treacherous. I open the letter that arrived this morning, handwritten on cream stationery from a young actress I mentored through the foundation. Your guidance changed everything. Not just my career, but how I view success itself. I signed with an agent yesterday who reminds me of what you said about partnerships based on respect rather than expedience. Thank you for showing me that ambition and integrity aren't enemies. The words warm me more than any review or industry accolade. On the table beside me rests a stack of documents: my original birth certificate, court records of my mother's Montgomery lineage, the detailed revenge plans I no longer need, the financial records of my systematic takedowns, the past, all of it. I strike a match and touch it to the corner of the stack. The papers catch quickly, curling into ash that drifts away on the evening breeze. I watch until there's nothing left but embers. My phone buzzes with a text from Nicholas. Ready for the next chapter? I find I am. Ready to discover what exists beyond revenge, beyond justice even. Ready to use this second chance for creation rather than retribution. The sun slips below the horizon, taking the last light of day with it. But unlike in my previous life, I don't fear the darkness. This time, I know morning will come again. And this time, I'll be ready for it, not with plans for vengeance, but with something more powerful: hope.